In an attempt to increase domestic supplies of gas, the UK government announced it is removing the ban on the controversial form of underground gas extraction from rocks called fracking. Scientists are divided over the safety of the shale gas extraction. It was banned in 2019 after a series of small earth tremors in Britain. Some engineers argue it's just not economically viable. Take a look.
The last time fracking was introduced on this site in Lancashire in northern England, it was contested by locals. Some argued that sending strong jets of waters and chemicals into the ground to extract gas from rocks called shale was unsafe. The government says, in light of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine and weaponization of energy, the government is taking concrete steps to increase homegrown sources of energy and reduce the UK's reliance on foreign imports. It wants to issue 100 new licenses allowing businesses to begin fracking, but the announcement has reopened a raft of arguments. In the UK Houses of Parliament, this is what the government's Business Secretary Jacob Rees-Mogg announced.
It is important that we use all available sources of fuel within this country. It is more environmentally friendly to use our own sources of fuel rather than to extract them from other countries and transport them here at great cost, both financially and in terms of carbon.
Some scientists argue fracking isn't safe because previous attempts at extraction were linked to earth tremors. According to the British Geological Survey, a study claims 58 earthquakes at the Priest Hall well in Lancashire in 2011 were linked to fluid injection during hydraulic fracturing. The process was stopped in 2019. Now, the war in Ukraine and shortages of energy have put fracking back on the table. In 2015, engineers at the University of Nottingham created a tool which looked at the substructure of grounds for proposed fracking sites. It argued comprehensive coal mining for hundreds of years could contribute to some concern about the geology of the area around northern England, where the shale has been detected.
Literally nearly 10 years ago, 2013, when David Cameron came out with a statement that the UK is going to have 50 years supply of gas from shale. So in other words, it's going to be equivalent to the next North Sea. That work was based on extrapolating findings from US shales, and it turns out US shales are much better quality.
According to experts, most fracking is done in the US because the shale deposits there are bigger and much richer. So it makes the extraction of the gas financially worthwhile. But he says the seams of shale in the UK aren't as productive.
We simply don't have the reserves of gas in the same way that they do in the US, for example, where there's obviously a huge market. It's much more fragmented in the UK. We are much more densely populated. So extracting anything is going to be much harder and likely, in comparison, much more expensive.
The prospect of renewed fracking has reignited local opposition too.
We're going to go down that route with the likes of, because of what's happened with Russia and the Ukraine and all that. Surely that is the best reason to move forwards with renewables.
They've been trying to get gas out of the ground. They failed because the geology cannot tolerate it. It's failed because it will not bring enough revenue, and it's failed because communities won't accept it.
Experts argue the war in Ukraine is not a sound argument because scaling up the production of shale will take years, and figuring out a way to dispose of the wastewater and chemicals safely hasn't been thought through. The announcements come as a scientific review commissioned by the government concluded there are still significant knowledge gaps with fracking. Bureau Report, WION, World is One. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.